IXL section AA.4, factor quadratics with leading coefficient 1. Okay, so as I've said before, these IXLs on factoring are extremely important. And this is a really good IXL to do because so many of the early problems are very simple. So if you're someone who doesn't know how to do this or is not very confident on factoring yet, this would be an excellent IXL for you to practice because most of the early problems are super simple and it'll really help you get the hang of what it is that you have to do. And really, this is not difficult at all. All right. Now, all the problems in this IXL have a leading coefficient of 1. That's very important to point out because the techniques that I'm going to use only work when you have a leading coefficient of 1. Okay? By the way, if you don't understand what that means, the leading coefficient of 1, that means that the variable that has the exponent of 2, the number in front of it is this invisible 1. All right? So that's what they mean by the leading coefficient is 1. There's an invisible 1 right there. If there's another number, then what we do is a different strategy, which we're gonna look at next class. All right? And those are a little bit more challenging. But the ones from today, when the leading coefficient is 1, are not difficult at all, and they're extremely important that you understand. Okay, so to factor this, factor means I'm gonna break this up into two multiples, two expressions that I can multiply to get this original quadratic expression here. Okay, so whenever the leading coefficient is 1, what I'm gonna do is this. The variable that's here, I'm gonna write it at the beginning of my parentheses. Okay, now I have to put two numbers that when I multiply them equal 11, but when I add them, they gotta equal 12. I'll say it again. I need to put two numbers that when you multiply them, they give you the number that's right here, but when you add them, they gotta give you the number that's right here. Okay, so this example is pretty easy. It's obviously 11 times 1. Because when I multiply 11 and 1, I get 11. But when I add 11 plus 1, I get 12. That's how it works for all of these. They do get a little bit more challenging later on. But as long as you know your timetables, that's all that you're doing on every single question. All right? Así que, let me just say that in Spanish. Cuando estamos factorizando estos problemas, primero que nada, en este IXL, todos los ejemplos tienen un coeficiente de 1 al principio. El número que está al frente del variable que tiene el exponente de 2 siempre es el 1 invisible. Eso es importante de darse cuenta porque la manera que voy a hacer estos problemas solamente se puede usar cuando tenemos esta situación, que el coeficiente al principio es 1. En la próxima clase vamos a hacer problemas donde el coeficiente al principio no es 1. Okay? Ahora, si no saben cómo factorizar o no lo saben hacer muy bien, deben hacer este IXL. Es muy importante porque muchos de los problemas al principio son bien sencillos, bien fácil, y eso lo va a ayudar a aprender cómo hacer esto. No es nada difícil, pero lo vamos a usar para muchos problemas hoy y en las próximas clases. En esta clase y también en la clase de álgebra. Okay, así que otra vez, cuando tenemos una expresión cuadrática donde el coeficiente al principio es 1, para factorizar esto, lo que voy a hacer es escribir dos factores que se multiplican para coger esta expresión. Siempre se hace de la misma forma. Al principio pongo el variable que está aquí, lo pongo aquí y aquí. Y ahora lo que necesito son dos números que cuando se multiplican te dan este número, pero cuando se suman te tienen que dar este número. Así es como se hacen todos los problemas de este IXL. Okay, así que este es bien fácil. Debe ser obvio que tiene que ser 11 y 1, porque cuando multiplico 11 por 1 me da 11, pero cuando sumo 11 y 1 me dan 12. All right, let's look at this one. All of these on this slide are the same pattern, the same style. All right, so again, I put two parentheses. At the beginning, I'm going to put the letter y or the variable y. Okay, now two numbers that when I multiply give me 4, but when I add them give me 5 is obviously 4 and 1. All right, here it's going to be the same thing. I'm going to put a t at the beginning of both parentheses. So I need two numbers that when you multiply them give you 23, but when I add them give me 24. That's obviously 23 and 1, because when I do multiply 23 times 1 I get 23, but when I add 23 plus 1 I get 24. And the last one here, let me say it in Spanish. Okay, este lo voy a hacer en español. Al principio pongo el variable j. Ahora necesito dos números que cuando los multiplico me dan este número, 7. Pero cuando lo sumo me tiene que dar este número, 8. Ok, así que tiene que ser 7 y 1. Porque cuando multiplico 7 por 1 me da 7, pero cuando sumo 7 más 1 me da 8. Ok, todos los ejemplos en esta página es la misma cosa. Ok, luego se pone más interesante. All right, so here these examples are still simple, but now we're adding some negative signs, which means that you got to think about the signs of your numbers. Ok, aquí estos ejemplos todavía son fáciles, pero ahora tenemos algunos con signos negativos, así que tienen que pensar de los signos de los números en la respuesta. All right, so on this example, I'm going to start it off the same way. I put two parentheses, H and H. Okay, now I need two numbers that when I multiply them will give me positive 2, but when I add them, they got to give me negative 3. So obviously, two numbers that you multiply to get positive 2, it's got to be 1 and 2. However, in order for them to add up to negative 3, you got to make the numbers negative. Because negative 2 times negative 1 will give me positive 2. But when I add them, negative 2 plus negative 1, I get negative 3. So that's why they work. All right. Let's look at this one over here. So again, I put two parentheses with W at the beginning. So two numbers that I multiply to get negative 3, but when I add them, they give me negative 2. It's got to be negative 3 and positive 1. Okay, this is an important one to look at if you're new to factoring. If you already got this, then you can just do this IXL because you're going to find it easy. But if anybody's new to factoring or doesn't really get it, this is an important one to look at because you got to make sure that the negative sign goes with the 3 and the positive sign goes with the 1. If you don't put it like that, you're going to get it wrong because it doesn't work the other way. All right, the reason why is because negative 3 times positive 1 will equal negative 3. But when I add negative 3 plus 1, that gives me negative 2. If I would have reversed the signs, then they would not add up to negative 2. All right. Así que en este tienen que estar seguros que ponen el signo negativo con el 3 y el signo positivo con el 1. Si no lo hacen de esa forma, la suma no te va a dar negativo 2. All right, let's look at this one over here. Same concept as this one, but let me do this one in Spanish, okay? So, en español, para esta, primero pongo los paréntesis, al principio pongo la letra Q para los dos. Ahora necesito dos números que cuando los multiplico me da negativo 17, pero la suma te tiene que dar positivo 16. Ok, así que eso tiene que ser positivo 17 y negativo 1. Ok, porque cuando multiplico positivo 17 por negativo 1 me da negativo 17 y la suma me da positivo 16. Si lo hubiera puesto de esta manera, esto está mal. What I'm writing here is wrong. Si hubiera puesto Q menos 17 y Q más 1, cuando lo multiplico sí me da negativo 17, pero si yo sumo negativo 17 más 1, eso me daría negativo 16. Y eso no trabaja. Necesito que la suma me dé positivo 16. If I would have written this, which is incorrect, the sum would have given me negative 16, and that doesn't work. I need the sum to give me positive 16. So that's why I'm telling you that you got to make sure that to put the signs with the correct number. Okay, por eso es que se tienen que poner los signos de positivo o negativo con los números correctos. All right, let's look at this one over here. two parentheses. At the beginning, I put the letter D for both of them. So two numbers that when I multiply will give me -7, but when I add them will give me -6. It's got to be -7 and +1. All right, that'll work out so that the product gives me -7, but the sum gives me -6. All right. Okay, now I think the problems start to get more interesting now. They're still simple though. As long as you know your timetables, they're still simple. And they're kind of fun to do. It's like a little puzzle that you gotta find the answer to. At least that's how I think about it. All right. Ahora los problemas son un poquito más interesantes. Todavía son fácil. Lo único es que tienen que saber la tabla de multiplicación bien para poder hacer esto. If you don't know your timetables well, then it's gonna become a lot tougher than it should be. All right, so again, I start by putting the two parentheses. At the beginning of both, I'm going to put the variable D. Now I need two numbers that when I multiply, give me 15, but when I add them, give me 8. And by the way, I haven't done this yet because the problems have been pretty simple so far. But if you're ever not sure, I'll definitely do this process for the more difficult questions. But if you're ever not sure, you could just write here, okay, what can I multiply to get 15? 1 times 15, 5 times 3, okay? And then I just look at those numbers and see, okay, what combination, when I add them, could give me 8? Well, the only combination would be 5 and 3. In this case, +5 and +3, or I could have written +3 and +5. It's the same thing. All right, so let's look at this one. I put the two parentheses. I put the n at the beginning. All right, now I'll do it here. I need two numbers that when I multiply, give me 24, but when I add them, give me 11. So let's pretend, I'm sure some of you are not sure. So let me write the factors, all the factors of 24 to figure out which is the factors that when I add them will give me 11. And let me say that in Spanish, okay? Si no están seguros cuáles son los factores de 24 que te dan una suma de 11, aquí voy a escribir los factores de 24. Pueden usar este proceso cuando no están seguros qué números deben usar. All right, so first 1 times 24. All right, 2 times 12. 3 times 8. 4 times 6. Those are all the factors of 24 right there. Okay, esos son todos los factores de 24. So when I look, what combination can I combine to give me a sum of 11? This is the only possibility. 3 and 8. When I add 3 plus 8, I get 11, okay? Cuando yo miro a los factores para ver cuál combinación me puede dar una suma de 11, solamente puede ser el 3 y el 8. All right, so n plus 3 and n plus 8, because the product will give you 24 and the sum will give you 11. That's the winning combination right there. Okay, let's look at this one over here. All right, so I got my two parentheses with S at the beginning. Okay, now let me continue the process. Even though this one's pretty easy, let me continue that same process to help you guys learn how you could figure them out when you don't know, because you will eventually get some difficult ones. All right, so for 16, I could do 1 times 16. I could do 2 times 8. 3, no. 4 times 4, yes. 5 times something, no. 6 times something, no. 7 times something, no. 8 times something, yeah. 8 times 2, that's already there. So that's all the factors of 16. So what combination here can add up to a 10? All right, a 2 and an 8, you can combine them to get a 10. Now the thing is, it's -10, so we got to be careful with the signs. In this case, they got to be -8 and -2, because -8 times -2 gives me +16, but when I add -8 plus -2, that gives me -10. All right. As you practice these, you should get the hang of them. Okay. Let's look at this one over here. So that one's easy. Two numbers that you multiply to get 14, but add up to 9 are 7 and 2. So let's not waste a lot of time on this one. That would be the answer for that one. And you could reverse the y plus 7 and the y plus 2. It makes no difference. All right, moving on. Okay. I think we have this slide and another one of examples. All right, so right here, I need two numbers that when I multiply give me positive 8, but when I add them give me negative 6. That one's easy. It's got to be negative 4 and negative 2. Because when you multiply negative 4 times negative 2, you get positive 8. But when you add them, you get negative 6. All right, let's look at this one. Even though it's not that difficult, let's look at it. All right, so I put my two parentheses with f at the beginning. All right, now the factors of 40. The factors of 40 are 1 times 40, 2 times 20, 3 times nothing, 4 times 10, and 5 times 8. Okay, those are the factors of 40. Okay, so which combination here can add up to 14? It's got to be the 4 and the 10. All right, so f plus 4 and f plus 10 would be the winning combination for this problem. All right, let's look at this one right here. This one's easy. I made sure to put like enough examples so that in case anybody needs more examples. All right, so two numbers that you multiply to get negative 10, but you add to get negative 9 would be negative 10 and positive 1. Negative 10 and positive 1. All right, here's another simple one. All right, two numbers that you multiply to get, excuse me, two numbers that you multiply to get positive 10, but you add to get negative 7. I mean, it should be obvious, but just in case anybody doesn't see it, the factors of 10 are 1 times 10 and 2 times 5. So the only combination here that you can combine to get 7 is the 2 and the 5, but they got to be negative for it to work. So negative 5 times negative 2 will give you positive 10, and when you add them, you get negative 7. All right, moving on. I think this is, yeah. So these are the last four examples. So let's look at the first one. So again, you put your two parentheses with W at the beginning. All right, now let me write out the factors of 40 again. The factors of 40 are 1 times 40, 2 times 20, 3 times, nope, that doesn't work, 4 times 10, and 5 times 8. Okay, now I need the factors that I can combine to get 6. Okay, so when you add them, you can't get 6 with any of these, but when you subtract them, you can get 6 with these two numbers when you subtract them. So those are the ones that we're going to use, okay? Con estos factores, la suma no te da 6 para ninguna combinación, pero si los resto, el 4 y el 10 me puede dar 6. Porque 10 menos 4 es 6 y 4 menos 10 es negativo 6. Okay, so now it's a question of using the correct signs. Tenemos que ahora usar los signos correctos para que nos den estos números que necesitamos. Okay, so it's got to be positive 10 and negative 4. Because positive 10 times negative 4 is negative 40. And when you add them, you're going to get positive 6. All right, so that would be the correct combination. Again, as you do these, you should get the hang of them. All right, you'll realize, which number should be positive and which number should be negative in order for the sum to give you the term that's in the coefficient that's in the middle. All right, let's look at this one. Okay, so the factors of 30. Again, you probably don't even need to do this, but just so that you get the hang of how you would figure it out if you don't see it. The factors of 30 are 1 times 30, 2 times 15. I actually wish that we had some more difficult problems in this IXL because I think so far all the problems are so easy. The difficult ones really help you to learn how to do it, all right? 3 times 10, 4 times, nope. 5 times 6, and that's it. Those are the factors of 30. So from these possible combinations, the only ones that you can combine to get a 13 would be a 3 and a 10 right here. All right? So my answer is going to be two parentheses with a T at the beginning. And two numbers that you multiply to get positive 30, but you add them to get negative 13 would be negative 3 and negative 10. Because when I multiply them, I get positive 30, but when I add them, I get negative 13. So that would be my answer for that one. Okay, over here, let's look at this one. Again, I need the factors of 30. So 1 times 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10, and 5 times 6. Okay, now look at the number that's in the middle. The number that's in the middle here is negative 1. Aquí hay un negativo 1. So which combination will give me, if I add them or if I subtract them, will give me a 1. And it has to be the 5 and the 6. All right, that's the only combination that could possibly give me a 1. So my answer is going to be, since I want them to add up to negative 1, I got to make the bigger number negative and the smaller number positive. Ok, como yo quiero que me den una suma de negativo 1, tengo que hacer el número más grande negativo y el número más chiquito positivo. So that way when I multiply negative 6 times positive 5, I'll get negative 30. But when I add them, they'll give me negative 1. What I just said about the bigger number being negative, in order for the sum to give you a negative number, that's something that you should realize when you're working with the numbers. It's called number sense. It's something that you just realize when you're working with them. That in order to get the negative sum, your bigger number, you got to make the bigger number negative. Okay, let's look at our last example over here. So I want two numbers that when I multiply will give me 20, but when I add them will give me negative 12. All right, it should be obvious what I'm going to use, but just in case, those are my factors of 20. It should be obvious that we're going to have to use the 2 and the 10 so that you can combine them to get 12. Okay, so again, I put the two parentheses with h at the beginning. Okay, now this one's easy because if you multiply two negative numbers, you get a positive, but if you add them, you get a negative. So both numbers are going to be negative. And listen, just again, for anybody that struggles with this stuff, I would recommend not. There's no rule to memorize, in my opinion. In my opinion, the best thing to do is to, if you're not that good at this, trial and error. As you try different combinations, that should lead you to understanding how to get the correct combination quickly. All right. By messing up, you will learn. By trying different problems, you'll get the hang of it because it's really not difficult. Again, the only people that are really going to struggle with this is if you don't have your timetables memorized or you're still struggling with addition and subtraction. All right, which is a sad truth of a lot of students. All right, that I've seen that over and over again in my years of teaching. All right, so and the best way that you're going to get better at addition and subtraction is by practicing problems. Trial and error. That'll lead you to your brain will start understanding how to get the correct answer the more problems you practice. It'll just become second nature. But you cannot get around that. Like if you don't practice math, which is a problem that a lot of you guys have, you don't practice math, you will never learn. You will never it will never become second nature for you. A lot of the things that the people that are good at math just naturally process with their minds. It's the same thing as reading. Okay, it's the same thing as reading in the sense that once you're used to reading, you could just look at that and in a second realize it says cat. But for someone who's brand new to reading, they don't process words quickly, and just processing one sentence will take them a long time. Never mind a paragraph or a novel or a story or a chapter. Okay, and the only way to get better is by reading. Just like the only way to get better at math is by doing math. That's the only way that your brain gets strong, that you strengthen your brain is by practicing and repetition. All right, so again, like I've been telling you guys, I highly recommend, please, I encourage you, do these IXLs. You will see the results in this class as well as in your Algebra 1 class because this is really good practice for math. All right, I love IXL. That's why I use it so much, especially for intensive. If I could use it for my regular classes, I would. But not everybody in the regular classes has IXL accounts. So that's why we don't use them in the regular classes. All right, guys, so that's it for this lesson. You only have one IXL assignment. Make sure to do them because in the next class, we're going to do the same thing except for quadratic expressions where the leading coefficient is not 1. And those are a lot more challenging. and require a lot of trial and error. So make sure to do the easy ones. Otherwise, the more difficult ones are going to look impossible or very difficult. All right, guys, so that's it for today. I'll see you guys next class. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.